The Champions League draw is coming very, very soon. And I woke up very early. James Bench just woke up too, because that's just how he gambles his life. But we are here with special guests as we break down the round of 16 on Qué Golazo. Champions League draw begins right now. Hey everybody, welcome to Qué Golazo. Thank you so much for being part of the family. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching or listening. Obviously, this is our live watch-along of the Champions League round of 16 draw. So happy to have you. Listen, I'm on New York time, but James Bench is in London. James, how are you, buddy? I just woke up. I got my coffee. Are you on coffee? Where are you at right now in terms of your day?
I'm still on coffee. I got my booster jab yesterday, so
yeah,
I know, really exciting. But it also, I think what it adds is a sense of drama that I might just fall asleep, or my arm might fall off, or I might pass out. I'm feeling a bit fluey today, but and in retrospect, doing it before like the last massively important CBS day of 2021 was not the best idea. But I wanted it in time to go and see Spider-Man on Friday. So.
Oh man, I'm definitely doing that as well. We might do a watch along for that, everybody. I don't know, maybe
live from the cinema.
Live from the cinema, annoying everybody. James Benj breaking down Spider-Man. But welcome, everybody. Round of 16 Champions League. This is your live watch-along. We're going to have a few guests coming. Jonathan Johnson will join us. Ollie Holt as well. Zach Lowy. We're hoping for even more guests, but if not, it's all good. James Benj is here with us throughout the whole thing as we break down the Champions League draw. So thank you so much for being part of the family. So listen, the draw is going to begin very soon, but very quickly, James Benj, I wanted to ask you some questions and some discussions before we go ahead. By the way, if you're watching this, we want your comments. Like if you're a Real Madrid fan, how confident are you feeling these days? How about Man City, PSG, all the other guys like Lille? Don't take them for granted. They won their own group, for crying out loud. But I want you to know, if you're a fan or a supporter of any of these teams, you know, Atleti, Ajax, Bayern, United, Juve, Chelsea, I want to find out. We want to know how you're feeling and who you want for the Champions League round of 16 draw. James, let me ask you the first question here. Group stages. Did anything majorly shock you before we go into the round of 16? Anything that you look back, reflect on it, and think, you know what? That was pretty crazy. I did not see it coming.
Oh, I think in the end, I thought Atletico shocked me in that I think we all sort of started to feel like there might be some reason to doubt them. And in the end, they sort of turned it on at the very end. But I thought they were sort of both shocking in that for 5 games, you went, oh gosh, this team aren't very good. And then we saw the real Atletico come through at the last possible minute. Aside from that, I mean, did Barcelona shock you? I feel like it didn't shock me, not even after. I mean, I think we probably could see something was up before the season began. It's going to be really weird that we don't have them on this draw show. I think the first time they've been in this competition and not been in this stage of it since you were saying it was the time Leeds went to the semi-finals. I mean, that's a lifetime ago.
I know. It was 2000, 2001. I think good points. I think Atleti definitely surprised me. I didn't see them sort of coming back, taking advantage of a very tough group. And I guess it's probably, James, Atleti, less Atleti and more Porto, right? Kind of like sort of shitting their own bed. I'm sorry for, cursing so early in the morning, but I can't think of anything. Hey, how are you, Sela? Barcelona collapsing in that group with Benfica, LOL. Yes, I think Barcelona not making it in the knockout stages. It's not that surprising, though, everybody, just because of everything that's been going on in the club. Jimmy Conrad did predict it from day one, so we got to give him credit. And I like to give Jimmy credit when he's not here more often than not, right, James?
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. Let's hope he's not watching along. He's definitely still asleep right now, so hopefully he's missed that. I just thought the Benfica weren't very good. That was the only thing that made me think they might get through. Barcelona was that, kind of when you watch it back there, they're not great defensively, although they started in the playoffs doing really well. And then the attack is basically just what can Darwin Nunez do quite often. I think sport, I mean, it's probably not too wise to go off on a tangent about Portuguese teams, but Sporting are a much better team. Benfica, pretty the third best team in Portugal for a reason. Like, it's
would you
really,
say they're the weakest team out of the runners-up?
Between them and Salzburg, for me,
Yeah.
I just felt with Salzburg, like they just don't. They've got no collective experience of this. I mean, if I was them, I would be sort of thinking, can we go and sign a couple of veterans in January that, can, particularly maybe if you get a favourable draw, like, can we go and sign some players that will just make it a bit easier and will be able to kind of guide us through this stage? I don't think they will do that. But I think they're the two that I'd have my fingers crossed for: Benfica, Salzburg, and Juventus, because Juventus are rubbish.
So from that point, and thank you so much for being part of the live watch along, everybody. Make sure that you engage with us, throw us more comments. Obviously, we've had Barcelona as a major thing. They're not here. But in terms of the teams that are here, everybody, I would love to know who are the teams to avoid. If you are one particular club, who do you definitely not want to play? Just giving you a reminder, the group winners are Man City, Liverpool, Ajax, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Manchester United, Lille, and Juventus. The runners-up, PSG, Atleti, Sporting, Inter Milan, Benfica, Villarreal, Salzburg, and Chelsea. So I'll throw that one to you, James Bench, because very soon we'll have our first guest, I believe, and the draw itself will begin. But the first question, the next question to you is, who is the team? Or maybe you have more than one, but who are the teams to avoid, do you think? Who you don't want?
I mean, pot two, it's obviously Chelsea, isn't it? You are, and PSG. I know that, we talk about this all the time with PSG, and I'm sure when Jonathan comes on, he'll disabuse us of this notion, but they're pretty rubbish for the collective state of talent they have available to themselves. You don't want to. I mean, it's a long time between now and February. They may get a new manager. They may just change their tactics a little bit. They may possibly make the decision that's staring Pochettino in the face, which is keep one of the big three on the bench.
Yeah.
But they're the two. And then, I mean, from the top group, the top tier seeded teams, it's Liverpool, it's not Chelsea, Liverpool, City, and Bayern Munich. I think you are praying that you can avoid those three if you're in the second group. I mean, interesting what Pepe's dad on said. Ajax and Salzburg. I don't know if that's a tie he wants. Like, that is, I think, the tie that every European football hipster wants, isn't it? Ajax against Salzburg.
Yeah.
Like the ultimate nerdy, tactical, under the radar players draw that would be.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for this comment there. They want Ajax, definitely worth a mention. I don't think we underestimate them here in the show, everybody. But I think one thing about Ajax is that they truly, obviously, delivered perfect throughout the group stages. But I want to see them against a big team. So, to your point, right? If Ajax face Chelsea, that to me would be their first legitimate test, I think, in the knockout stages as well. So that's a big one for me. All right. Well, who are the unseeded dark horses, do you think, then? Who do you think is the one that could go the furthest? We already talked about, some Portuguese teams that perhaps not, but is there anybody you think, what, they could go further than we think?
Oh, I can't quite place my finger on what to make of Inter Milan, because they're doing really well in Serie A, and we know obviously they're champions from there. I think we were all kind of wondering to what extent there was a sort of, it was Inter's problem or Conte's problem with the Champions League under Antonio Conte. They could be something super interesting. They've got two high quality strikers, a defense that's hard to score on. That's a great recipe for Champions League football. They're going to miss Barella in that first game.
Good point.
He got that bizarre red card in Madrid. And I think Madrid, the way that they were kind of in that second meeting, they were pretty comprehensively outplayed. That worries me, but go right back to the start of the group stage. They were the better team against Real Madrid first time out. So they are a team I think could run deep. I mentioned them before as well. Sporting are just good. They're just a collection of good players. It's a real solid fit. I like that midfield, Palhinha holding it down, and then Pedro Gonçalves, the new Bruno Fernandes. I don't think it's unreasonable to offer him such high praise. He's been spectacular in this group stage. So definitely Inter are the one no one's talking about, that I think, I don't think they're going to win it all, but they might make a deep run in this competition.
And I think they feel really confident in Serie A now that they're topping the group. Obviously, it's still really, really tight. Caleb says, I want to see Madrid versus Ajax to get them back at them since last time. That would be a very tasty matchup, Caleb, I think. Especially, I'm very big on Real Madrid, by the way. They've moved up very high in my power rankings these days, James Bench. Obviously, they took care of business against Atletico Madrid, but now 7 straight wins in La Liga. They haven't lost a game since October 3rd. Karim Benzema, Vinicius Jr. I mean, they're killing it these days. And by the way,
what happens if Benzema and or Vinicius get injured? What happens to the attack?
That's what do you think? Then. Do you think it goes down tremendously?
I think they get knocked out. Genuinely,
yeah, really. They need those 2 players regardless, no matter what.
I think with Benzema, we've got a genuine world-class player that we've known about for a decade. And then with Vinicius, we are actually just seeing this kid burst into life before our eyes. It's amazing. So I think, but if you take them out, there's not a huge, overwhelming sense of high grade talent in this squad. So I would really worry about what happens if one of those, let alone 2, get injured. Courtois has been fantastic in goal. I think he's been the
Luka Modric playing way younger than his years at these points as well. But I guess you could say that about every club, right? Like if 2 key players miss out, then their chances go up. But specifically so with Real Madrid. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. And by the way, yes, this draw is on Paramount Plus, so make sure that you head over to the app and CBS Sports HQ as well. It's all over CBSSports.com and Paramount Plus. You can watch the draw right there on Paramount Plus, so make sure that you do it. You can watch the entire thing. So this is what we do. Put it on your phone and have your laptop with us. We are the biggest screen. And we have, as the draw begins very, very soon, we welcome in Ollie Holt from the Daily Mail, chief sports writer. I'm such a fan of Ollie. His work is tremendous. Obviously, as many relationships begin in 2021, it began on Twitter, and I wanted him to come here to join myself and James Bench. Ollie, how are you, my friend?
I'm great, mate. It's really, really good to see you, and I'm expecting an education from you boys on this show. So I'm just here to listen and observe.
Well, Ollie, if you're expecting education from both of us, especially me, which is 6 a.m. in the morning, I'm not sure how that will work out. But so good to have you. It's a pleasure to welcome you to the show. Obviously, the Champions League draw will begin shortly, so we'll be watching along as we see. But because this is your first time here, which is great, and as I'm talking, the show literally is beginning. I wanted to ask you the first question that I asked James itself. When you look back at the group stages, Ollie, is there anything that surprised you? Specifically, obviously, a team that's already now in the knockout stages. Anything that you thought, my goodness, I did not see that coming?
Well, look, I suppose the obvious one in some ways, which I'm sure you'll have talked about, is that Barcelona aren't there. Although I guess with everything that was going on at Barcelona, it was kind of naive to be surprised in some ways. But I think it's just become part of our muscle memory that Barcelona are going to be in the last 16, and it still feels like a kind of I don't know, an offence against nature that they're not there. But so I suppose that in some ways is the obvious one. Maybe that PSG are in the second group of pots, but then again they're up against Man City. So I mean, I think PSG are one of the fascinating stories of this draw today. Quite who gets them? Will a team be desperately disappointed to get them, one of the first place teams, or do they flatter to deceive a little bit? There are clearly issues at PSG.
Ollie, I'm interested to get your take as well on the 4 Premier League teams. It certainly feels like the Premier League right now is at a level of ascendancy. I mean, you've been covering this league much longer than I, but it may be the dominant league by some distance, by some measure. I think we've got at least 2 of the 3 favourites, maybe 3 of the 4.
Absolutely, and I think the three teams at the top of the Premier League at the moment are clear of the field in the Premier League. Liverpool, Chelsea, and Man City are by a distance the best teams in our league. But I also agree with you. I think they're the 3 favourites. In my head, they're the 3 favourites for the Champions League too. And maybe, I think we always have to beware a little bit in England. I think, as you know, of being slightly jingoistic about bigging up our teams. But and also I've seen people saying it's not good for the Champions League that we are becoming so dominant. And I can see that, but I think, I sometimes, these things are cyclical, and there was a time when the Spanish league was massively dominant. There was a time possibly before the Champions League, I suppose, when, although there have been obviously all Italian finals, when Serie A was dominant. So these things come and go. I mean, personally, I think part of the beauty of the Champions League is having different teams from different countries at the top. I don't think it is particularly healthy or as interesting when it's Premier League dominated, but I do agree with you. I think 3 of our 4 teams are favourites. Manchester United are 4th of those teams. Even they, as you were hinting then, if they've got a really, well, in theory, an easier run of games coming up, if they get a bit of momentum going by February, who knows? They could, depending on who they draw. I mean, they would not want to draw PSG, I suspect.
Yeah, nobody really would, I think. I've said from the beginning that the thing about PSG and the squad with Pochettino is, like, just get to the knockout stages. Just get there. Like, everything else, I feel they're a knockout stage kind of squad. They're not really a group stage team. Like, they're not going to be perfect. They're going to have some issues, obviously injuries, including Neymar Jr. right now. But listen, everybody, nobody can tell me anything, okay? Because I was born and grew up in England, even though I'm Peruvian, and now I live in the US. And I can tell you that the Premier League is the dominant league, whether that's because financially or whatever. So I think it does go back to that. I think we will maybe see one of the Premier Leagues in the final. By the way, Pedro Pinto right now, we had a nice little montage of all the clubs in the draw. If you're watching, you can watch it on Paramount Plus. But Pedro Pinto has a nice little trophy. It's a nice trophy, by the way, everybody. James, what do you think? How do you rate this trophy in accordance to all the trophies, not even just football?
Right.
Big
so,
ears.
I mean, Ollie, I'm afraid you're going to have to listen to my quite tedious views on this. I really, I think, especially, I'm too young to remember the era of Brian Clough, but if you're British, his reverence for the European Cup is like hammered into you once you get a certain level of interest to the sport. So I can't help but look at it and see those sort of pictures and the film, I Believe in Miracles and all that. Having said that, I prefer the Europa League trophy by some distance, because it feels like the sort of thing that was hewn out of the rocks of some Greek island and has been wrenched asunder, and is therefore the best trophy. I feel like, and it's the best trophy in all of sport. I know that our American viewers, you like your Stanley Cup. That's just unwieldily big.
It's too big, man. It's massive.
Especially when you're on ice carrying it.
Didn't somebody drop that into the river in Miami recently or something?
Oh no, you're thinking of the Super Bowl trophy when Tom Brady was on a boat trying to throw it to his teammate. But the Stanley Cup, the Stanley Cup has been dropped because it's the size of a house. It's massive.
I don't understand how it doesn't go through the ice. To whatever.
I'm not a trophy. By the way, I'm not saying that it's a bad thing that you are, but I'm not a trophy. I do love the European Cup, but I can't even quite picture the Vince Lombardi trophy. What's that look like? Is that particularly striking trophy? I'm not sure.
Hey, Des Norris, if you can put it up on the screen, but it's not
football.
It's a golden football, and it's pretty. I don't know. I think this one is pretty. Is this the same trophy, by the way, that Sergio Ramos dropped?
Oh, it can't be the same one, because that's.
Oh no, yeah, it can be. I was just wondering if there was a dent in it, by the way. Hey, let's everybody, thank you so much for being part of the show. If you have a question, that was the Copa del Rey. That's right, Des Norris. That wasn't the Champions League. That was the Copa del Rey trophy, which he dropped. I lose track of how many things Sergio Ramos drops, including his own health. But let's keep going here. If you have a question or comment, please make sure that you throw it on YouTube. Ollie, here's another question for you. Another one one of the things that people are really interested in is, is there a team, Premier League aside, is there a team that you would want to avoid as we head into the decision of the round of 16?
What, in terms of the Premier League teams, you mean, or
anybody?
Anybody.
Yeah.
Well, I think probably the easy option, and I'm partly going to say this so I don't expose my ignorance about Villarreal or Red Bull Salzburg or something. But I think the easy answer to that question is PSG. Just because
there's the Lombardi Trophy, by the way. Go ahead, Ollie.
There we go. Yeah, very nice. But just because I think there's a feeling about PSG that as you were saying before, they've got to where they need to be, and I think there's a feeling that maybe, you know, with a forward line like that, well, let's face it, with a team like they've got, not just a forward line like that, they should be the favourite to win it, really. And if they hit their potential, which they obviously haven't yet this season, then they could beat anybody.
Yeah.
So I think, given that they're in the second pot, they are, you know, they're the team to avoid.
Yeah, I think so. By the way, Andrea Chavin, James Bench, has joined in the crew there. He's a 2022 Champions League ambassador. He looks good these days. You have fond memories of our Chavin, James Bench?
How could you not have fond memories of Andrea? I mean, I have to say he looks very well, having seen the end of his Arsenal career. He looks possibly even better than he did then. It's a really, as anyone that covered Arsenal will tell you, a really special talent and a really unique footballer. Just the impudence and vision, and he was everything that.
I mean, on his day, he was an absolute nightmare.
Oh gosh, yeah. And I have to say, you know, I don't want to railroad this podcast towards Arsenal as I usually do.
But you're going through anyway, James Bench. Go ahead.
They could really do with a player like him. Yeah, right. They really
well,
could.
I mean, listen, as you continue to maybe get into one of these competitions next season, absolutely. So January should be very interesting. Here's something for you, everybody. In terms of just some pot permutations, apparently Chelsea versus Real Madrid, Ollie, is the most likely matchup. What do you think of that? If that was it, if it was Chelsea against Real Madrid, who would you see go through?
Well, again, at the risk of being accused of being Anglo-centric, Premier League cheerleader, etc., I'd say Chelsea. And just because I think, I don't know, they've been so impressive since Tuchel took over. They seem like a team who know exactly what they're doing. They can, you know, they've under Tuchel's leadership, they've sort of got everybody involved. I think they can, you know, adapt when they lose players, as we've seen with them losing Lukaku. They've, you know, they've had a few missteps, but I just think they're a very competent, efficient team, and you know, we saw that in the Champions League final last year when it would be fair to say they surprised most of us by beating Man City. Man City were the favourites. You can say what you want about whether Man City imploded, but nevertheless, Chelsea played extremely well in that final to get the job done. I just think they feel more together than Real Madrid at the moment.
Yeah. I and also Tuchel, I feel, again, just like we were talking about PSG being a knockout team, Tuchel knows what to do when it's game by game basis. Having said that, they conceded 3 goals against West Ham, 3 goals against Zenit, albeit, of course, a rotated squad, 2 goals against Leeds United. So, and Real Madrid are a team right now that are feeling very good. James and I were just talking about not just Karim Benzema, but the emergence of Vinicius Jr., the fact that I think that right now, current form, I would put him in a top 5 player in the world right now. I just think he's that good. And if everybody's clicking, James Benj, it would be an intriguing matchup. And just because Real Madrid are home second, I don't know. It'd be a dangerous bet to completely bet against Real Madrid. James Benj, what do you think?
I just find that it's. I mean, Ollie will remember this as well. That I felt like there was a real gulf between Real Madrid last season and the Chelsea side we saw, and I think Chelsea have got better, and they may still have 2 or 3 teams better than them in the competition. I think we're kind of up and running now with the draw, aren't we? And
we are. Andrei Archevin's in, and now Marquisius is going, and he's discussing a little more. But we're very close on finding out the pots. But yes, I think the other thing as well is Tuchel's so good at whoever he's facing on their day. Tuchel's kind of like Bill Belichick like this, where he's so good at like whatever your strength is, we're going to just get rid of it. Like straight out. All right. The first name out, by the way, is Benfica. All right. Our producer is definitely ahead of all of us. So, by the way, I'm a little bit behind. And this is, by the way, what happens when you have somebody from New York, the UK, and then there's our producers in Miami. We're going to get to it. But Benfica is the first team out. So that should be an intrigue. And we've talked about the Portuguese teams. By the way, the last 16 dates, first legs will be played on February 15, 16, 22, and 23. Second legs on March 8, 9, 15, 16. And we'll be talking about Americans left in the competition with our friends. But Benfica is the first team out. And let's see here. And they definitely can't face Bayern Munich. Aside from that, all right, let's make a guessing game, James Bench. How are you feeling about it? And
I think they're going to draw Real Madrid.
Here we go. It's already said. Benfica against Real Madrid. We were just talking about them. Bench, talk to me about that game, quick.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good draw for Real, all things said. Benfica are not a team that look like they would test opposition a lot unless it's a Barcelona in crisis defence. And I know we've said a lot about how reliant Real Madrid are on Vinicius and Benzema, but when you look at the numbers, Benfica's attack is really reliant on Darwin Núñez. They had a good defence. I remember watching them in the playoff round against PSV. They were down to 10 men for 80 minutes of the second leg, I think, but held firm and got through. It's a great draw for Real Madrid. As we said, they take Benzema and Vinicius out of this team, and it doesn't feel like superstar standards, but it's enough to get you through to the last 8, which is really all you want from this.
And the next game, my goodness, Manchester City against Atletico Madrid. That is quite a fixture, Ollie Holt. I mean, Atleti did well enough, I think, celebrate enough the fact that they made it this far. They just lost to Real Madrid in the Madrid derby. And Man City, they've been one of my top 3, if not probably second in my power rankings. How do you make that game?
Well, I think on paper it's not a bad draw for Man City, but I think part of the problem with City is that we expect so much of them in the Champions League. I just feel nervous. I always feel nervous about City in the Champions League, and I think Atleti are the type of obdurate side that
my
might
mistake,
surprise them.
by the way, my mistake. It's Villarreal against Man City. Villarreal against Man City, but I think the same kind of connotations come in this one, Ollie.
Well, the same kind of connotations, although I think Simeone carries a little bit of baggage for English sides, and so I think that's not. I think City will be more pleased with that draw than if it had been Atleti, although that's not to underestimate Villarreal. I mean, I think Villarreal have shown us already what a good side they can be and how difficult opponents they can be. I still think City will feel. I don't think City. I'm not saying City would have felt intimidated by Atleti, but I think that would have carried a little bit more jeopardy for them. I think they would expect, and we would expect them to win this.
And it's Unai Emery, of course, facing a Premier League team, something he knows well. So that could be an advantage. But I think this is a good game for Man City. Yeah. Say that again, James.
If he's still in a job, he's not exactly setting the world alight in La Liga.
Yeah. Well, that's very true. And obviously, just like the same connotations we had about Real Madrid, Villarreal really need those players like Moreno, who really is the main target point. And when you face somebody like Man City with Ruben Diaz, etc. And the next one, Bayern Munich against Atletico Madrid. Oh my goodness. James Bench, thoughts?
I think, again, I feel Ollie and I are bringing quite an Anglo-centric view on this.
I agree, yeah. But Bayern is Bayern.
Atleti play 2 top quality teams in the Champions League in 2021, and both occasions they were pretty convincingly beaten. Liverpool, it feels like it will be more like the Liverpool games where Bayern could just overwhelm Atleti as Liverpool did. But equally, there's so little going forward despite that collection of attacking players in this Atleti squad that you could also see Bayern just doing what Chelsea did to them and holding them at arm's length, getting the goals when they need them. We were saying before you came on, Ollie, that Atletico Madrid just don't feel like Atletico Madrid anymore. They're not that strong defensively. I'm sure you remember that bizarre foul Hermoso gave up for the penalty against Liverpool.
Yeah,
it's not the team we thought it was.
No, yes, they're a bit sort of scattier than they used to be. They used to be just that, exactly as you're saying, that totally kind of focused, and they're the more draws coming out now. But
absolutely. That's where I wanted to jump in, because Salzburg against Liverpool, I think we can all agree that that's a Liverpool win right there. I wanted to really jump to the next one, which to me right now is the tastiest fixture. Inter Milan against Ajax, Ollie Holt. I haven't asked you about Ajax yet. We've talked about them. Obviously, they have such great history, their philosophy. They went perfect in the group stages. They're doing their thing in the Eredivisie, and now they face the defending champions of Serie A. To me, this is a very tasty game. Thoughts on Inter Milan against Ajax?
Yeah, it is a really tasty game, and I think Ajax, Ajax always get a lot of love, and rightly so, because I think everybody's desperate for them to do well, to sort of recreate their glory days. There's a lot of love for Ten Hag, I think, and so it is a really tasty matchup. I'd love to see Ajax win it.
Yeah, very quickly, would you see him take the Manchester United job?
It feels to me between the lines that that's what United are holding out for. By the way, I'd love to say I do have, but I don't have any inside information. But it feels to me like that's what they're holding out for. Personally, I'd like to see him stay at Ajax and, get them going again. But I think that's a distinct possibility that he goes to Old Trafford.
I don't want to skip one, but
yeah, go ahead.
I've seen what the last draw is.
Well, I mean, we have Sporting Lisbon against Juventus. I think that's it's tasty, but I think Juventus should be enough to take care of business, even though they haven't exactly proven to be the next. But go ahead, James.
Then we have Chelsea Lille, which inevitably leads to another Ronaldo Messi showdown in the round of 16. PSG against Manchester United. It's fascinating because I think the thing that intrigued me most with PSG was whether they draw like a real team. Yeah. I mean, I wanted them to get like an Ajax, so we saw that balance of superstar talent against a unit. And I know we've got several months of Ralf Rangnick, and you can already see the impact he's having. But it feels like we've just got the two most individualistic superstar talents, but not necessarily a clear, defined structure teams facing off against each other. I mean,
so is it PSG Man? Is it PSG Man U?
PSG Man United.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. PSG Manchester United is the final pot that comes out. What a fixture, a return, of course. And this game actually was pretty much the determinant factor that gave Ole Gunnar Solskjaer the permanent job. If we remember how they did it a few years ago, Ollie, PSG Manchester United. I mean,
I think
without Rangnick, I feel a little bit more confident with United. What do you think?
Well, I think, first of all, I think that's sorry to be Anglo-centric. I think that's the tie of the round, and maybe we're not being Anglo-centric, but I think, as James said, that's Messi against Ronaldo. That will be the narrative that will be the build-up. Will be Messi against Ronaldo. It'll be a fascinating build-up as well, because are they as great as they ever were? How much have they faded? Has one faded more than the other? And then, as you've just said, there's the memory of Man United going to PSG, getting that result. I was at that game, and I remember the reaction to that win was, "Oh my God, Manchester United are back!" This is the beginning of it for Solskjaer. He's going to lead United back to the glory days. It felt like that, being in the stadium that night. It felt like that. It felt like United were back. It felt like they were reclaiming the European heritage. It turned out to be a massive false dawn. But it's still a fascinating tie for all that. I think PSG should be favourites. But to say that the issue is, if United get some momentum going, at the moment they don't look like they're going to. They kind of crept past Norwich. They're struggling at the moment for any kind of form, but they have won 3 on the trot. If they get some momentum going, who knows what sort of place they might be in by February, and who knows where PSG will be. But I think on paper, you'd have PSG as the favourites to win it, but it'd be a brilliant story.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think to James Benj's point earlier on, these games are not until February, right? So, and remember, Bruno Fernandes came to Manchester United in January, so a quick, important transfer could be the decider. I think Ralph Rangnick being in charge gives me a little bit more confidence if I'm a Manchester United side. Having said that, I'm wondering if PSG are saying enough is enough. It's time to take care of business in this competition, especially because they obviously have on paper a stronger squad. Let me give you all the games, all the fixtures, so then we can just really jump around, James Bench, here. But Benfica against Real Madrid, Villarreal against Man City, Atleti against Bayern Munich, Salzburg against Liverpool. I read your comment. We're not disregarding Salzburg, but come on. It's Liverpool. Inter against Ajax, Sporting against Juventus, Chelsea against Lille, Lionel Messi against Cristiano Ronaldo, which we haven't mentioned. It's PSG against Manchester United. I mean, this is the fixture, James. Bench, quick thoughts on that game, and then we'll just go everywhere.
I mean, the only other, there's going to be so many subplots. We do have, as Ollie said, Ten Hag is certainly one of the names in the frame, but we also know that Pochettino will be part of any Manchester United managerial conversation in the summer. And that whole subplot will not have gone away. There's just an awful lot of talking points and tries. It's going to be fantastic. It's what I just can't really say anything. I'm quite giddy with excitement about that. I know.
I'm excited too. I want to throw it to everybody watching and listening. If you have a favorite fixture or maybe a winner out of any PSG or Man United, please throw them in. We want to get your comments and questions. But here they are, as Des Norris, our producer, puts them on the screen. As you look at that, Ollie, I'm wondering, is your, I'm sure you have an original thought in terms of who you think will win the whole thing.
I don't have that many original thoughts.
None of us has. We're in the football business. But has anything improved to you in terms of, I think this team's definitely going to go even further, or is there, or has it maybe halted your idea of who could go further?
Well, one thing I look at is I think that three of the Premier League sides will go through. I don't think United will, but who knows? But I think it's quite a favourable draw for the Premier League teams. I think we were talking about that possibility before of Chelsea playing Real Madrid. You said was the most statistically likely one. I think that Chelsea will be really. I saw a little survey before we came on air saying Lille was the team Chelsea would most like to meet out of the top pot of teams. I think they'll be relieved to have got that draw. Again, I am not saying that is, I'm not taking Lille lightly or patronising them. I just think of all the teams that Chelsea could have got, they will be pleased to have got Lille. They may be misguided to be pleased, but I think that is a favourable draw for them. So, I think it's quite a good draw for Premier League sides. I think, again, to reiterate what we've been saying, United PSG is absolutely mouth-watering for a whole number of reasons, but mainly because of Ronaldo v Messi. It's a beautiful script.
I think one other thing that the Premier League teams will be thinking is that a lot of teams that they wouldn't want to play, I mean the big three potential favourite Premier League teams, a lot of teams they wouldn't want to play are going to start knocking each other out. PSG are obviously the one lurking in the background for Liverpool and Chelsea. But I think we know that even though you would say City, Liverpool and Chelsea would all be fairly strong favourites against United, when you get these Premier League European ties, the form book and things like that, they don't matter quite as much. Equally, I think Ajax and Inter Milan were two that we kind of pulled out as dark horses. Let them knock each other out and deal with everything from there. It's a great draw if you're a Liverpool. As much as I like Salzburg, the story there is what Sadio Mane going back and some good young players like Karim Adeyemi. It's not even a potential banana skin, really. I look forward to being proven wrong on that. If I am, well, that will be very fun. But yes, this is great news. And the same with Bayern and Atletico. We've said Atletico aren't what they were, but you'd be pretty happy if Bayern did a favour for you and knocked them out.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But guess what? Jonathan Johnson is waiting on the bench, our PSG insider, and we wanted to welcome him in as we quickly include Ollie Holt. I know Ollie has to go very soon, but I wanted to welcome in Jonathan Johnson to the show, our PSG-based colleague. JJ, straight away, PSG, Man United. Here we go again. Obviously, Messi versus Ronaldo, but there are so many other narratives. Your instinctive, immediate, urgent thoughts, please.
Hey there, guys. Great to be on with you. Yeah, it was. I mean, it's growing a little bit predictable, a bit like PSG against Barcelona and Chelsea a few years ago. But it is also the topical tie at this moment in time. Yes, obviously we've got the Ronaldo versus Messi script, but we've also got Pochettino and a potential audition for the future job at Manchester United. If those rumors are still around when the game rolls around, I think that's definitely going to be another thing that people are looking out for as well at Old Trafford. So very interesting, and by far and away probably the most intriguing tie to come out of what was otherwise a fairly routine draw. But I think there's a lot for PSG to work on between now and facing United, and obviously it's not going to be the same United that they faced over the last couple of years under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. So plenty of potential for the two teams to change things up. Will Pochettino even still be in charge of PSG when that match comes around? If the Zidane rumors stick about, we may well see a change there. We'll have to we'll have to wait and see what sort of state we're in when we get around to it. But potential for it to be a very entertaining two-legged affair.
Absolutely. And Jonathan Johnson is staying with us for a little longer, but we do say goodbye to Oliver Holt. Ollie, before we say goodbye to you, my friend, is there anything else that you particularly are focusing on aside from that massive fixture? Obviously, the Premier League teams are massive, as you mentioned, Chelsea against Lille and Manchester City against Villarreal, Liverpool against Salzburg, but I keep going back to Inter Ajax, to be honest with you. That's my favorite. Is there another fixture, Ollie, that you feel this one is definitely one to highlight before we say goodbye to you?
Yeah, again, at the risk of exposing my ignorance, I am quite interested in the Bayern Atleti fixture, just partly because I'm aware that, I think we're talking about the favourites for the tournament, and because I'm Anglo-centric, I keep talking about the Premier League sides, but it feels kind of patronising for me to be ignoring Bayern because of their record. I think if they can get rid of the soap opera that's been going on there with Kimmich and everything about whether he's got the vaccine, whether he's not got the vaccine, that appears to be finally drawing to a close now. I think that had the potential to derail them a little bit. But again, if they, I totally agree with what James said about, I think it was a really good point about the fact that the English teams, as much about the fact that they've got semi-favourable draws, will be pleased to see two teams like that drawn together. And I think if, as I expect, Bayern knock out at Atleti, that will be a good thing for the English teams. But it does bring into focus the fact that Bayern probably the main threat and would certainly be amongst the favourites.
Absolutely. Ollie Holt, chief sports writer for the Mail on Sunday, as all of us here are still trying to recuperate from Lewis Hamilton not winning the Formula One, but so great, just like Lewis Hamilton, Ollie Holt, so graceful being part of this show. Really, is there what game are you covering this weekend, Ollie? Are you focusing on one particular?
You know what? I don't know, actually. I was just thinking about that. I was thinking they're going to ask me what game I'm doing at the weekend, and I'm not sure. I'm still sort of punch drunk from having seen your team at Anfield at the weekend.
We got robbed, Ollie Holt. We got robbed.
Well, there's a delicious Villa Burnley coming up this weekend.
Oh, is there? Well, I may have to. I've had too much Villa over the last few weeks, so I may have to.
There's never too much Villa.
I may have to tear myself away from them this weekend, but no, I'm currently trying to weather a storm of Twitter abuse from Villa fans because I kind of posted a very bad picture of Steven Gerrard listening to "You'll Never Walk Alone" on the touchline, which seems to
Ollie, how dare you?
Seems to have marked me out for the wrath of Villa fans, which some things never cease to surprise you. But I thought it was a fairly
sensitive lot.
a fairly innocuous picture. But anyway, I'm sorry to bore you with the minutiae of my life. So yeah, I may not be doing Villa this weekend, is all I can say. But I'm look, it was a real honour and a pleasure to be on with you guys. And like I said at the start, it's an education. So thanks a lot, and thanks for having me.
No, thank you, Ollie. Thank you so much. And we will see you next time. Make sure that you follow Ollie Holt on Twitter and follow all his work, of course, in the Daily Mail. Ollie, have a great rest of your day, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Ollie.
All right, then. Jonathan Johnson, James Bench, as we continue, we'll have a few more guests, but JJ is here for a little bit longer. All right, so JJ, straight away, well, let's focus about, the other French team, Lille. Lille, who topped the group, by the way. First of all, their group was kind of interesting, wasn't it? But talk to me about Lille and their own chances in the round of 16.
Yeah, absolutely. Lille, did a really good job in the end, getting out of the group, finishing top. And their reward for that is probably one of the draws they absolutely didn't want. I think it's going to be a very tall task, despite the fact that Lille are improving in form. They've got a good unbeaten run going at this moment in time. Just looking at it on paper at this moment in time, knowing the form of the two teams, that is going to be a very, very, tough task for them. I think Lille's best chance will be to try and keep things tight, certainly in the first leg at home, the advantage has to be with Chelsea, at this moment in time, looking at it. But you never know if you've got somebody like Jonathan David in the goal-scoring form that he's in at this moment in time. If you can somehow limit Chelsea, to perhaps, maybe scoring a goal at each game, there could be a possible scenario where Lille are trying to play for extra time and maybe penalties in the second leg. But really, it's I wouldn't have this down as a favourable draw for Lille.
Yeah.
I like that JJ's getting involved in the Premier League angles we've all been dropping so far. But I guess I had one more question on Lille, JJ. I think Fabrizio's reported, as far as I'm aware, that Jonathan Ikone may well be off in January. Do you think that would be it in terms of, this fire sale that started in the summer? Could we see I think we know that a lot of the other players may well go in the summer. Someone like Jonathan David being looked at by every Premier League team out there. Do you think that it will just be Ikone that goes? And how much of a loss would that maybe be in terms of testing Chelsea in the round of 16?
Well, I think if Lille hadn't topped their group, there would have been more potential to see somebody else moving on in January as well. I think that Ikone will probably be the extent of that now, given the financial windfall that they'll enjoy with that top spot. But, there won't be any shortage of interest in their players. We know that Renato Sanchez was close to leaving over the summer. Interest could, peak in him again. And also Sven Botman as well. I know that he's been linked with the likes of Newcastle United. So it'll really be a question of how strong Lille's resolve is to keep hold of these players. There could also be sort of a fatalistic point of view with Lille as well, looking at the fact that they're playing against Chelsea and wondering if they're actually going to be able to even make a fist of going through. You'd hope not, for the sake of the French football coefficient. I hope that they do try and give it a good go over the two legs. And if Ikone, does complete that move to Fiorentina, then that's the extent of the outgoings this window. But the other thing that I would say is, given the financial windfall that they're going to get now from progressing as top of the group, you'd also hope that they might be in a position to maybe strengthen in January, because there are some holes in that squad, and I think one or two, perhaps intelligently sourced transfers could actually make them more of a difficult proposition for Chelsea, come the first of those two legs.
You know what? I'm just reading on Twitter that one of the things that is going on right now is that the Manchester United ball was omitted by accident from the Atletico Madrid draw as well. So, there's literally a video where United's ball in the second pot from the right, back, was not included back with the Atleti draw. So there's a little time.
I feel that this is all just victimizing me. Villa get United in the FA Cup, PSG in the Champions League. I just feel like I'm being aggressively targeted.
I think you are. There's actually an image of Jonathan Johnson with a target on his back in UEFA website. Benj, what do you make of that? A little mistake here.
I'm certain that everyone on Twitter is reacting reasonably and in a measured fashion. I mean, this is going to be like Lewis Hamilton all over again, isn't it? We're going to have a complete rerun. UEFA suits changing how it all works to suit the drama. JJ, I don't know why you're worried, mate. I think as off as PSG have been, like Manchester United have a whole like identity to build in 3 months.
So do PSG, though, to be fair. It's not far away.
Oh my goodness, that's right though. First Lewis Hamilton.
If they do redraw it, does that mean they're going to have to replace Marchetti and maybe Arshavin as well?
I think so. They're going to have to start all this all over again, by the way. But yes, everybody is talking. Mark Ogden from Twitter, if Man United ball wasn't in the pot when Atleti drew Bayern, then that's an issue for United, Bayern, Atleti, and PSG, who will all feel that the draw wasn't fair.
Maybe the fairest thing to do then is just to tell Manchester United that they'll be allowed to draw Bayern as well. You could give them a 3-way choice. You can have Bayern, PSG, or Atleti. One of those 3. Which one? Draw them for those 3. It's all just part of the. I know people like nowadays have to get angry about these things. I don't remember it, but Luis, you'll be well aware that this is just what happens. You need the conspiracy theories. Patrick Ewing on the Knicks because
1,000%. Go ahead.
The warm draft balls, wasn't it? I don't think Man United should be complaining because, as I said, JJ, I do think PSG are favourites, but United have got a team there that they will feel like they can beat. At least it's.
Yeah. Oh, they've done it, not that long ago. They came to Paris, they won. Well, they've done it a couple of times actually. So, I think it could have been worse for both PSG and for United at the end of the day.
Well, we're getting a lot of comments from reputable people saying they should redo it. So
does that mean we have to redo this?
I'm not getting up again at 5:50 in the morning. All right, I don't get paid enough for that. But anyway, from the draw that we have, this is what we have. And by the way, the last 16 dates, again, first legs will be played on February 15, 16, 22, and 23. The second legs will be on March 8, 9, 15, and 16. And that's what you have. I'm very intrigued now about this conversation about redoing it. JJ, do you see that happening at all?
I don't know whether I see it happening, but one thing I will say is I'm surprised at how messy this ceremony was. It's quite unlike UEFA for it to not run like Swiss clockwork, and it was very, very questionable. So I mean, I can't see it being redrawn at this moment in time. But then again, I've not looked at the flaming dumpster fire that is Twitter. For all the comments and the fallout just yet.
I should let JJ know as well. It was shockingly swift by our standards.
It was. I mean, I wasn't due on until about in 10 minutes time, and then suddenly got the call to jump in.
I thought we needed sort of multiple montage videos of Andre Arshavin. Maybe they couldn't find Andre Arshavin's best Champions League moment. All they had was like a loop of that goal he scored against Barcelona, and they're like, well,
Andre, can you just walk a little slower to the table so we can well, listen, everybody, we're going to take a hard reset very soon, as we'll do an actual official audio/video recap of this. So very soon we'll take care of minutes, and within that we will also include a few guests, including Zach Lowy, who should be coming soon at 6:50 a.m. Eastern. But Jonathan Johnson, how long do I have you here for? Do I have you for the recap, buddy?
Not that much longer. I am required elsewhere, but I can potentially jump back on at some point during the other recap.
Oh, that's all right, man. That's all right. Let me ask you about this, and let's both talk about this, because obviously it's too early for Jimmy Conrad and Heath Pierce. But very quickly on the Americans left, by the way, Pulisic, Weston McKennie, Brendan Aronson, Timothy Weah, Zach Steffen. Who would you say can go further out all of them there, James Bench?
I mean, Zach Steffen will be part of the journey, won't
he? He'll be in the squad, right?
He'll be around. I mean, I think Pulisic is a really interesting Champions League player, and he's had great games we were talking about the Real Madrid game with Ollie Holt, and he was the best player on the pitch then. It's also fair to question like what role he will even have in the squad. Like I might even, there's lots of talk about him going in January. I don't particularly see that materializing. And I know that, Thomas Tuchel told us he's a big fan of Christian Pulisic, but he could be he is the X factor player of the Americans in this draw. He is the one that may swing a game, a tie in Chelsea's favor. And I know that Thomas Tuchel thinks that about Pulisic. He doesn't always trust him. He's not like a Mason Mount that guarantees you weekly 8 out of 10s. But, Pulisic can be a 9, a 10 on one night and win a game, win a tie for you. So he's the one that I'll always keep an eye out for. I think we have to say with Weston McKennie, does he get in regularly? Might he go as well? There's talk in, I think it was Gazzetta, we're speculating whether he might be sold on so that Juventus can profit. But Pulisic, fantastic player, could win a game for Chelsea, could play no minutes as well.
It's a really interesting one for the American players who are sort of on the fringes, because it also, with a potential move in January, then what happens at the beginning of the following season when you're leading into the World Cup? Because surely the motivating factor for a lot of these guys to potentially make a move will be to absolutely safeguard their positions within the US men's national team. So I'm looking at guys like, I think Aronson has been very, very unlucky with Salzburg getting that draw, because that's probably going to be the end of the road for the Austrians, unless they can pull off an absolute madness. But then when you're looking at guys like Pulisic, like Stefan, maybe even like Tim Weah as well, if they do make a move in January and it doesn't work out, that puts a lot of pressure on them to get their summer move right as it leads immediately into the World Cup. And if they don't go out on loan this month and don't play much for the rest of the season, how attractive does that make them from both a club and country point of view come the summer? It's it's a real poser for a lot of these guys, I feel.
Yeah, absolutely. But, regardless, I think it's a celebratory thing for American fans to see you have these players in the round of 16. It's definitely a massive achievement. And with that, a massive achievement to have Jonathan Johnson as part of our family. Let's hope that Villa get that win against Norwich and then Burnley later on. But
let's hope we can play the game, considering all of the COVID outbreaks across the Premier League at the moment.
Yeah. Oh, we're getting some Brendan Aronson love. Hey, he's my favorite one. So you never know. But
he's got a lot of dragging to do.
Good luck with that. But no, fingers crossed. I always love an underdog story. So if Salzburg can pull off something against Liverpool, that would be very, very interesting. I just I wouldn't be putting money on it right now. But then again, I don't have Jimmy, giving me his nuggets of wisdom for the betting tips. So I'll leave that for closer to the time. Cheers, guys.
Out of all the Americans, that's right. But Jonathan, thank you, buddy. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time. James Bench and Zach Lowy will join us later. But this is the official countdown to our recap show, and we'll also have some Europa League updates as well. But this is our Champions League countdown for our recap in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Qué Golazo. This is our Champions League round of 16 recap as we break down every matchup and we discuss with James Bench all the interesting, all the tasty fixtures as we look ahead to the knockout stages of the Champions League beginning in February. Qué Golazo Champions League round of 16 recap begins right now. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for being part of the family. Qué Golazo Pod on Twitter. We're also on youtube.com/Qué Golazo CBS Sports and your CBS Sports. James Bench has been with me all day breaking down the Champions League. We had Ollie Holt in the house, Jonathan Johnson. Hopefully, Zach Lowy will join us in a second to discuss a little bit more about the recap. But the last 16 is set. And we are with James Bench to discuss all of them. And the matches are Man City against Villarreal, Liverpool against Salzburg, Ajax against Inter Milan, Real Madrid against Benfica, Bayern Munich, Atletico Madrid, Man United against PSG. That's Messi against Ronaldo, Lille against Chelsea, and Juventus versus Sporting. James Bench, thank you so much for being with me this whole day. How are you, buddy?
I'm great. Yeah, we've been going an hour. It's been an awful lot of fun, and look forward to talking about it a bit more. I think we should say right now, we're not entirely certain this is the draw. Who knows?
To James Benge's point, everybody, there's been a little bit of a hitch, a controversy going on. If you are not on Twitter, if you don't know what we're talking about, during the draw, which was a messy one, right, Benj? I think it was one of the messiest, quickest draws, I think. Andrei Arshavin was part of it, etc. But there was a part in it, by the way, when the Manchester United ball from the lottery, from the pot, they were in the second. If you were watching it, they were in the second pot from the right. And I believe you can replay the entire draw on the Champions League website, also on Paramount Plus as well. It was a very rushed
probably going to be quite quick on that.
Des Norris says it. Yeah, exactly. You really want to jump on it right now in case it might not be. It was a very Russian draw, says our producer. Don't get the Cold War back in, please. We don't want that. But this is what happened. The Manchester United ball, by the way, was apparently, and I believe it's true because I'm looking at it, was not included in the Atletico Madrid part of the draw, meaning that, the PSG Man United game probably shouldn't have happened because they should have been part of the Atletico Madrid option. James Benge, your immediate thoughts on that?
I think, if this is accurate, and I think we should say it wasn't the only issue Man United had, because they were initially drawn against Villarreal, who they can't play because they're in the same group as. I think that has to happen again, the draw, just because for one thing, this isn't some, impossible operation that you can't restart at a moment's notice. You just do it. But it is quite a significant part of the draw that every team can play, every team they can be drawn against. And obviously, I think for Manchester United, this really was one of the nightmare draws they could have got. It's probably the worst draw they could have got because obviously they couldn't draw Chelsea. So you would expect that, they will be making representations to UEFA and asking why they were not allowed to draw every single team that was available to them.
Yeah, they were wrongly drawn versus Villarreal at the very beginning, by the way, who were in the group themselves. So that's already an issue. And then after that, they were excluded from the Atletico tie, and then they're drawn with PSG. This is a little weird, I think, especially because obviously the Messi-Ronaldo storyline is the one that's really taking more advantage. So you would definitely, I mean, the more I think about it, I think Manchester United will appeal. What you're definitely, do you think you're more certain on that than
yeah,
not?
you absolutely would in their position. I mean, it's about doing this in a fair and sensible way. And also, if you're Manchester, if Manchester United had drawn Lille and this had happened, of course they wouldn't, no one would be making a fuss. It would be like, shh, don't mention it. But they didn't draw Lille. They drew the best team in that was available to them. So I think they would be well within their rights, and there will be a great debate about this. But this is, the draw has not been carried out correctly. You do probably need to do it again.
And it's not just United, by the way. It's an issue for Bayern, Atleti, PSG themselves, by the way, who probably feel that, this is probably not the fixture that we wanted, but this is going to be an interesting one that we're going to keep our eye on. But by the way, I wouldn't be surprised, as you said, that there'll be, some official complaints to UEFA. Having said that, well, as it stands, that's what it is. So let's discuss the possibility of this game, PSG against Manchester United. That's clearly the star-studded squad. How do you see this game? Clearly, it's Lionel Messi against Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah, it is the two most individualistic of the big teams. Two teams that so far have shown that they kind of rely more on individual talent than set tactical plans. That this is a tie that could be won by Bruno Fernandes or a Lionel Messi or a Neymar or a Kylian Mbappe or a Cristiano Ronaldo. It is a phenomenal gathering of superstar talent. I think what we don't know is how much these teams will have these players will have coalesced into teams by the time mid-February comes around, especially with Ranić being a potential swing factor in United's favour. Will this be a team that can really press and challenge PSG's ability to play out from the back? Which collection of forwards will track back? Which collection of forwards will do their work off the ball? We've seen from PSG year in, year out that you cannot make Neymar or Mbappe do their off-the-ball work. We know that Cristiano Ronaldo is one of the worst pressing forwards in Europe, or one of the most reluctant pressing forwards in Europe. And I think just because we've seen, this is the reason why PSG get knocked out. I mean, the subplots keep flying in, though. We've got Pochettino against the team he may well be managing next season, because PSG don't seem entirely happy, or PSG supporters don't seem entirely happy with him. We've got two former Real Madrid centre-backs, if they're fit, in Rafael Varane and Sergio Ramos.
Yeah.
This is just pure what Jose Mourinho would call football heritage. This is Gazprom diluted and injected straight into our veins. And God knows if it will even happen. I feel like the most frustrating part of all this draw thing is that the possibly what could have been the perfect tie has been wrenched from us. Actually, I should also say, Jimmy Conrad predicted this draw in our preview show. So is he in on this?
I think this is the reason why he's not here. I think he flew over there and he made this happen, because he's guessing too many things right. He's predicting too many things correct this season. And yes, Rafael Varane against Sergio Ramos is another good supplement. But yeah, he's conspicuously absent, especially when things go his way the day after. So I am intrigued to find out a little bit more about it. But everybody, as we're doing this recap of the Round of 16 Champions League draw, please, take it with an asterisk, because right now, as we're talking and recording, and social media is what it is, like, not from just, Man United fans, but very reputable people, it seems that the fair thing to do is to redo this whole thing again. Whether UEFA allows that or not is the next question. So the more I think about it, James Benge, do you think we're going to need to retape this another time just because of this?
I want to watch Succession. I don't but no, we will. We're going to have to. I think that's.
Well, anyway, let's talk about the games that we have. Let's go into another one. Let's talk about Bayern against Atleti, the game that actually is on paper right now happening. How do you see that one? Bayern Munich, one of the powerhouses of Europe, against Atletico Madrid.
It feels like maybe a better game on paper than it will be in reality, because Atletico Madrid are not the defensive force they used to be. They are good, and we certainly can see moments where they can lock things down if they have the right players. It's worth remembering that players like Jimenez, Savic, Hermoso, they all missed time in this competition. I think in the final group game, they were playing like a back three of who's the right back? Vasaliko, was it Renan? It wasn't Renan Lodi. I can't remember who the other one was. And Jeffrey Kondogbia was like anchoring the defense.
Yeah.
So we haven't seen much in the Champions League full strength Atletico Madrid defense, but that defense is not the Diego Godin anchored one we remember from the mid 2010s.
No.
That, by the way, it's true across the side that we all can't help but see Cholo Simeone there and think we're watching Atletico Madrid of 5-6 years ago. This team can't defend. They're not that incisive in front of goal, and they're coming up against one of the best attacks in Europe. Serge Gnabry, we don't talk about, because we're all talking about Robert Lewandowski and Thomas Muller. Leroy Sané has been a revelation this season. This Bayern team is rightly among the favourites. I don't think they will see anything to fear in this draw whatsoever. The only question is whether something innately Atletico Madrid does start to emerge when you put all these players together, but I haven't seen it yet. I don't know about you.
No, listen, it's been commendable. I think Diego Simeone should celebrate just the simple fact that they're in the round of 16 Champions League knockout. That's about it. But now they're facing Bayern Munich, who are just clicking on all cylinders. I don't see any other route than a Bayern win. The one that I'm very excited about, James Benge, is Ajax against Inter Milan. That's a very tasty game. Inter Milan doing very well right now in Serie A, taking top spot as we speak, of course. But Ajax, who won every single game in the group stages, we know how good Ten Hag is. My whole thing is just give them a big team and see how they are. Well, here it is. It's Inter Milan. So how do you see this game?
Yeah, I think in many ways this is, after PSG United, it's the one that I think is most exciting and invigorating. As you said, we saw Ajax take apart a lot of good teams, and Inter may just be a good team, but at the right moment, they might be a great team, like a real dark horse for this competition. And we're going to get to see what this amazing Ajax team can do against them. it is. I'll be honest. It was the one I was while we've been recording this podcast. I've been slacking my editors, messaging them, going, "Yeah, how are we going to sort out those flights to Amsterdam? When are we going to get out and cover this game?" It is, this Ajax team. For those that haven't watched, we've seen the emergence of some real young superstars, Ryan Gravenberch, but especially Anthony, who looks like a potential heir for a Mo Salah, can do it all, can create, can score.
Yeah.
Sebastian Haller, we have to kind of all admit, has come from nowhere. He was brilliant at Eintracht Frankfurt, but a lot of us wrote him off. Probably wouldn't even have thought he would be the West Ham flop to shine on the Champions League stage. Just everything clicks perfectly together with this team. That does make you wonder what happens. They do have some good depth. Players like Neres can come in, David Klaassen can come in, but right now, you almost wish that we were seeing Ajax again right now. I'm sure, though, they will come into this having romped clear in Eredivisie. They've had their odd wobble, but it clearly hasn't affected their European form. And sooner or later, the rest of Europe is going to, those that haven't been watching some not big names in Group C, is going to spot that there's been something really special going on with Ajax.
Yeah, absolutely. And, they did tremendously a few seasons ago when they made it to the semifinals and then they lost to Tottenham. But this is a different kind of squad. The philosophy is still there. But to your point, Sebastian Haller, nobody really expected this kind of mountainous performance in the group stages, but they have a complete team. However, Inter Milan are the defending champions of Serie A. Simone Inzaghi has done really well to kind of, at the very least, keep this momentum. They weren't in the Champions League knockout stages last season. Coincidentally, that followed with the Serie A title, but now back in knockout competition in the Champions League. No Romelu Lukaku, but that doesn't matter. Edin Dzeko, Lautaro Martinez in double figures in Serie A. Nico Barella will be suspended for that first leg. Of course, that's a massive thing, but they are a squad and they have history, reputation, and a lot of pedigree. So, this is why I said I need Ajax to face a proper team. And, it's a very difficult one to predict, James Benge. I'm actually going back and forth as I'm talking. Right now, who would you give the edge to?
So I kind of agree with you that you want to see, and I know the logic, you want to see Ajax against a proper team. Borussia Dortmund, not a proper team. And I know that, and they've smoked them.
Yep. No,
those of you people that were watching our recap or our live watch along earlier will know that myself and Ollie Holt were very conscious of, don't get too pro English. Don't just think it's just the English. I have that, but also for Ajax as well. I just think they're at a level, and all the numbers, all the statistics, all the advanced metrics, they all say this Ajax team is in the top 5, the upper echelon. It's not kind of down with your Inter Milans and your PSGs, Lille's, Villarreal. Maybe I'm being kind of harsh putting Inter in that bracket. But right now, everything we've seen in the Champions League so far is that the Ajax are the real deal. So I'm not with you. I'm pretty confident that Ajax will reach the quarterfinals. I can't wait for how smug you'll be.
Well, listen, let's hope so for everybody's sake, because they do represent so much good things about the game itself. All right, let's go to Liverpool against Salzburg. Obviously, Salzburg, commendable for them to make it to the knockout stages. They have an American in Brendan Aronson. Adeyemi is so good, but Liverpool are just too much here, surely.
Well, what I would say is this is kind of quite an enjoyable one for a broadsheet feature writer. We've got the story of Sadio Mane, Naby Keita coming home. The how Red Bull Salzburg is almost a sort of proving ground for so many great Premier League players, many of whom are at Liverpool. Equally, it's and maybe we see the next Liverpool player in an Okafor or an Adeyemi or even an Aronson. I think these are all players that you can see, you can project to be Premier League standard. But it's always the challenge with Salzburg is you're seeing them before they're ready to make that step up. I think this should be quite comfortable. Equally, wouldn't it be one of the greatest shocks in the Champions League knockout round in recent years if a team, the first Austrian representatives in here for a generation, were to knock out one of the great European teams, and I think increasingly my favourites to win it all.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you so much for being part of the family, everybody, because this is still live, even though it's part of the recorded session for our podcast as well. But make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, spread the word. Tell us, which 8 teams are getting through, do you think, out of all those knockout stages? Do you think there will be a redo of the draw? So many questions, so little time, just like the draw itself. Let's go to Lille versus Chelsea. What do you think of that one? Lille, obviously doing well to top their own group, facing Chelsea, runner-up.
I think if you played this game next week, I would start kind of talking myself into how Lille might have a chance. You know, if there's no N'Golo Conte, I know our boss, Addy Joseph, picked up on a stat I put out earlier in the season about how I think it is that 8 of the 10 defeats Chelsea have had under Thomas Tuchel, these numbers may be wrong, but hopefully it gives you an example. So many of those defeats have come without N'Golo Conte being available, and he's really struggling with injuries at the moment.
Yeah.
And Chelsea's midfield as a whole is as well. You know, Jorginho, Kovacic was battling injuries, came back, caught COVID. There's real like challenges for Chelsea right now. But round the corner into the spring, and the sheer quality of this squad should surely pay dividends. And you know, equally, Lille will lose Jonathan Ikone from what Fabrizio Romano and Jonathan Johnson have told us. He's going to move on. I know that Timothy Weah's a great replacement. Really like Timothy as a person and a player, but it feels like Chelsea's perfect draw when they finished second in the group. They must have been thinking, please, let's get Lille.
Yeah, no. Well, let's move on to the other Premier League team, and that's Man City against Villarreal. Unai Emery's Villarreal, but to your point earlier on, James Benge, maybe he won't be there in January. Who knows? But it's Man City, of course. Thoughts on that game as Pep Guardiola finally looks to not just return to the final, but actually win the whole thing.
I mean, I have a cunning plan for Unai Emery. If he's listening, should take this on board. I would remind him that his team qualified ahead of Atalanta by playing a game on a Thursday, that Unai Emery is the king of the Europa League. All he needs to do is somehow come up with a way of making sure these games take place on a Thursday. I'm thinking snowstorm. I'm thinking earthquake. I'm thinking, you know, sick illness bug that means, we can't play Tuesday. We'll be fine for Thursday, though.
Yeah. Like close an airport. Do something. Yeah.
Play that Europa League music as your players come out. Why would people not want to hear that anyway? Man City hate the Champions League. They'd be well up for just playing the Europa League theme tune anyway. And then there you go. If you play this game in the Europa League, man, Villarreal guaranteed. No, I mean, you can play this game in any competition ever. Man City is still going to be pretty confident of their chances against Villarreal, who, I mean, we don't even know if they keep playing like they are in La Liga. We don't even know that Emery will be in charge.
This is the problem, because, you know, we're just thinking about this from a Champions League perspective, but, you know, Villarreal are 13th in La Liga right now. They're not doing well. Maybe they really are just the darlings of Europa League, and sometimes the Champions League competition can be too much. Obviously, yes, they did very well to beat Atalanta. I'm wondering, to James Benge's point, taking advantage of the fact that it was an extra day to prepare, etc. Atalanta have always been amazing, no doubt about it, but they do allow you to score goals. And if they're not on it, Villarreal will take care of business. Nothing to take away from Villarreal, of course, being this far, but it's Manchester City, James Benge. This is a different kettle of fish.
Again, I mean, if you're making points for Villarreal, I mean, there's the immediate thing. Danjuma looks fantastic, you know, championship to Champions League,
great
like
player,
nothing at all. But also that a few of their good, really important players, like Gerard Moreno, he scored. I know it was a penalty, but he scored at the weekend. If someone like him can recover some form, similarly, you know, if you can come in with a full strength squad and you can turn around the form table a little bit between now and February, maybe it just feel like a better time to play them. But equally, like, you know that Man City will be the same team they are now, that they'll still be cruising. So
maybe even better.
And the best version of Villarreal can only really have much of a chance against one of the worst versions of City. That's kind of where you fall down on that. That it would be almost as miraculous as Salzburg knocking out, knocking out Liverpool.
Well, we're nearly there, everybody. So throw in your questions before we say goodbye. But we've got a few games left before we wrap this up. But Real Madrid against Benfica, you would think is another tasty fixture for Los Blancos. Obviously, doing so well. They haven't lost a game since October 3rd. They've won 7 straight, I believe, in La Liga. Vinicius Junior, Benzema. This is, you would think, a Madrid win, but Benfica could maybe pose a surprise. What do you think, Benj?
I think that I didn't see anything that hugely enamored me outside of that one game where they punished a really awful Barcelona performance. You know, they made pretty heavy weather, I thought, of Dinamo Kiev, who were one of the worst teams in the competition in terms of the group stages. For Madrid, you know, I know, and I mentioned this in the 80 minutes we've been going so far, all the talk is about Benzema and Vinicius, and rightly so. But the thing I think that maybe makes them a good team in this Champions League will be if Courtois can keep up his form. I think right now, I think he is in the conversation for the best goalkeeper in the world, certainly in terms of pure shot stopping. Madrid were not fantastic defensively in the group stages. They gave up a lot of good shots, but equally, Courtois saved them all. If you look at one of my favorite advanced stats, is one that is sort of, it's always a little bit questionable, especially in low sample size, but goals prevented. If you go in the group stage, you have the 2 best goalkeepers in terms of goals prevented, which effectively is sort of how many goals did you concede? What did the XG, post-shot XG say you, or an average goalkeeper would have conceded? Courtois and Odysseas Vlachodimos of Benfica are the top 2 goalkeepers there.
Interesting. So basically, the reliance of the goalkeeper has been, I mean, they did, you know, Real Madrid, they lose to Sheriff as well. Like, you know, crazy things can happen. And let's not forget, well, one thing I'm interested about Benfica, who, by the way, are 3rd in the league right now. Obviously, they've got enough talent, but, you know, Darwin Núñez is a wanted man. And I'm wondering how much Benfica will prioritize their course in the Champions League as opposed to making money off of their striker as well. So their squad could look a little different during that time as well.
Yeah, I mean, we do know with Portuguese clubs that, you know, the finances there are not exceptional, and that if a Premier League team in need of a striker, say a Premier League team that have just been recently taken over by wealthy investors, for instance, if they wanted Darwin Núñez and made Benfica an offer they can't refuse, well, I'm sure Benfica would look at this and say, you know, we need to cash it out now on him. That we've seen that before with Sporting and Bruno Fernandes. Admittedly, they weren't in the Champions League at that time, but you know, Benfica would have to prioritize that. Another team as well where we have to say the manager is under real pressure. If you're the 3rd best team in Portugal, you know, you're probably one of Benfica, Porto, or Sporting, and whichever one you are, your manager's on the hot seat because it's a 3-team league, and being bottom of it is simply not acceptable. So I believe when I was watching the game, whoever was doing commentary on Benfica's game was pointing out that Benfica fans have a flight tracker style thing for Jorge Jesus that ends with him flying back to Brazil. That's how unhappy they are. So
yeah,
there's a distinct chance that we could end up with a new manager in the Benfica dugout next year.
I think so. All right, let's wrap it up with Juve against Sporting as well. How do you see this one? I mean, Juventus are Juventus, but you would think that they really need to take care of a little bit of business in January if they're going to strengthen, because, you know, their biggest priority too is confirming Champions League for next season, which is not happening right now in Serie A. Never mind winning Scudetto, they need Champions League. Again, how do you see this one against Sporting?
Well, I would say if you're a Juventus fan, try and make the most of these 2 games, because they may well be your last in the Champions League for a little while, at least by the standards that your club sets. You know, I mean, I'll come on to talk about the tie specifically, but this Juventus team have just drawn with Venezia. That you know, they are not very good. You know, I don't think they will get into the Champions League based on Serie A performance, because there are good teams that have an advantage over them. Sporting, meanwhile, you know, as we said earlier, they're a potential. They were one of the unseeded teams that I was saying don't draw them. They have a strong midfield, which Juventus don't.
Yeah.
You know, imagine if you put João Paulinho next to Manuel Locatelli in this side. They have admittedly, Juventus have plenty of these, but they have a real creative forward playing off a central striker in Pedro Gonçalves. Sorry, my mind went blank just there, and we'll back to come on to talk about some more draw shenanigans. There is some real talent here. Certainly, if you're picking a team where you expect the seed, a tie where you expect the seed to be knocked out, for me, it's this one. I think Juventus are at best marginal favourites.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Especially, since the fact that, to somebody's point, Sporting got absolutely destroyed by Ajax. Now, not to say that
they slapped Borussia Dortmund, though. They were like, "We've been hit. We're getting our emotional revenge against you, Dortmund."
And that was my point about Ajax facing another team. But this is definitely, I see it towards the Juventus side, but I would not be surprised at all if it goes the other way, especially because Juventus have looked a team that could definitely concede more often than not. By the way, as we wrap up these matches, it's worth noting to you, everybody, that we began with controversy because the Manchester United Bowl was not part of the Atletico Madrid draw, meaning that it should have been, meaning that PSG, Manchester United probably shouldn't have happened, meaning that clubs like United, PSG, Bayern, etc., were not happy about this. I'm reading, as we have been taping, per reports, Atletico Madrid have already complained. UEFA reportedly have already acknowledged, by the way, the mistake that the United Bowl wasn't in the pot to face Atletico Madrid. And they are seriously considering redoing this whole thing. And the protocol would be to resume draw from the point of error, though, not the whole thing. So I'm wondering how that's going to work. So an even shorter draw, James Bench.
I feel like an Everton player here I'm just looking at the last 90 minutes and going, God, what a waste of time that was. I suppose in the end, at least we kind of have a clear sense for what to do. And that is absolutely the thing that makes sense. There's no point redrawing the whole thing because that's not where the error took place. It took place mid-draw. But I think as we talk about this, I'm thinking, Des Norris, you're going to need to get this pod up live very quickly,
like literally right now.
To be very out of date. Also, I should point out the Europa League draw seems to be going off without
any updates on that?
Yeah, we've got Leipzig against Real Sociedad. That is a game and a half, and FC Barcelona. This is like a second live watch along here. I've just seen their name come out of the pot. They could draw Rangers, Napoli, Lazio, or Braga. None of which are teams I'd fancy them. Maybe Braga and Rangers. I mean, that would be. But yeah, it's high drama at UEFA right now. I just wonder if maybe we're about to see Atletico Madrid's name come out against Barcelona.
Atletico Madrid has to do the tremendous mountain of playing two tournaments at the same time. And then West Ham will face Accrington Stanley, and then everything will be juicy. But let's just, before we wrap up and everything, James Bench, thank you so much for being part. Just your initial gut reaction, because Atletico Madrid have officially, and by the way, it's Barcelona against Napoli. What a game for the Europa League, James Bench.
Wow. This is what I've been saying all along. This is the premier competition in Europe, and we have Serie A's most high-flying attack against a mid-table La Liga team. This game is going to be fun. A really
the Diego Maradona fixture.
Diego Maradona game is immediately where my mind went to as well. Like Europa League's going to deliver something, and again, if I'm West Ham right now, I'm rubbing my hands thinking one of Leipzig and Sociedad's going to knock each other out, and then one of Napoli and Barcelona too. Everything is coming up Premier League way. Everything. And everything goes through Qué Golazo and our friend, our colleague, James Bench, who's been here with me since the beginning of doing this whole morning, afternoon. And we might need to redo this all over again, but we will let you know. James Bench, thank you so much for being part of the Champions League draw and updating us as well on the Europa League, specifically that highlight match as Barcelona face Napoli. What a fixture. But James Bench, make sure that you follow him on Twitter, follow all his content. Anything else that you're working on this week, buddy? Oh, no. Oh, it's Arsenal West Ham midweek. I'm really hyped for that.
Absolutely. Some midweek matches to take care of business. But James, thank you so much for being part of the family, my friend. Thank you for being here.
As ever, thanks for having me on.
Thank you, everybody, for being part of our family. Follow us on Twitter, Qué Golazo Pod, youtube.com/Qué Golazo. We are also on CBS Sports, your CBS Sports app, Apple Podcasts. Leave a rating and review, Spotify, Stitcher, and anywhere you listen to your pods. We might see you again very, very soon, but thank you so much for being with us. We'll see you next time.